difficulties are there. In the language of those days, it is called nivarana, like curtain, thick curtains which won't allow you to see the things behind the curtain. You can't see the reality within you because of these nivaranas, these obstacles, these barriers. 5 big nivaranas, 5 big barriers. I call them 5 big enemies of every meditation, vipassana meditator. 5 big enemies. 2 big enemies: craving and aversion. You are meditating to come out of your old habit of craving, to come out of your old habit of aversion. And ignorantly, you are meditating and multiplying your craving. You are meditating and multiplying your aversion. You are supposed to come out of craving. You are supposed to come out of misery, of craving. You are supposed to come out of the misery of aversion, and look what you started doing. This is because of the old habit pattern of the mind, because of the ignorance, because of these nivaranas, these 2 nivaranas, 2 barriers. An example, how it happens. In a course like this, there are many reasons for asking the students, no communication, don't talk with the fellow student. If any problem, come and discuss with the assistant teacher or the teacher. But keep on working your own, keep on working your own. But human mind is human mind. Always inquisitive about others. You get one opportunity and you start talking, hey, how about you? How about you? And this person replies, I get a flow of tingling vibration, tingling throughout the body, and I didn't get any tingling. And somebody says, I got a flow of like electric current throughout the body. Electric current? Wonderful, I didn't get. And when you sit for meditation now, I want tingling sensation. I want electric current or no electric current for me. No tingling sensation for me. And you keep craving, craving, craving. You were here to come out of craving. And in the name of meditation, in the name of vipassana, you started craving, craving. Craving is craving. Misery. Even if you crave for the final goal, liberation, nirvana. I want nibbana, I want nibbana. You are running in the opposite direction of nibbana. Nibbana is a stage free from craving, and you are multiplying your craving. How can you reach the stage of free from craving? By generating craving. Not possible. So whenever you find this enemy is overpowering you, come out of it as quickly as possible. Don't allow it. Whatever comes about this moment, this sensation or that sensation, even no sensation, doesn't matter. You accept the reality of this moment as it is, as it is. What is not there, you want that. Then again, the same old habit pattern. What is not there, you want that. And that becomes craving. And you start having attachment to this craving. It becomes a big misery for you. Similarly, aversion. An example. You are made to sit for 1 hour, adhiktan. You can't open your eyes, can't open your legs, you can't open your hands. You somehow manage half an hour. You manage 45 minutes. After that, then the torture starts. Then again the same human mind, inquisitiveness about others. You are not supposed to open your eyes. And still you open little bit of eye. What is happening to others? Is this pain? I am only suffering with pain, and everybody is suffering with pain. You are so curious about others. And you notice at that time everybody is sitting like a statue of Buddha. That means they have got no pain. Only I have got pain. My pain has not gone away. Everybody's pain has gone away. Oh, this pain. Then your aversion becomes multiplied. Aversion towards this pain. My teacher keeps on saying everything is anicca, anicca, impermanent, impermanent. Maybe true. But this pain is permanent. This is not impermanent. Look, how many times I told you, you are anicca, and still it is not going. This is permanent. This is permanent. Aversion, aversion, aversion. The enemy has overpowered you. You are multiplying aversion. You are here to come out of aversion, and you started multiplying the aversion. Another 2 big enemies. Understand, all these enemies, they are defilements, mental defilements, which came in your body, in your mind, as guests, and then they became owner of the house. They don't want to go out. And when you practice Vipassana, they can't stay, they have to go out. Like you switch on, light comes and the darkness has to go. You won't have to tell darkness, oh, you go away now. Now there is light. When you practice Vipassana, these defilements have to go, and they don't want to go. So they give a kick from within. Stop Vipassana. This is not good for me. I don't want to go. You stop Vipassana. Two kinds of kicks are given from within. One big kick is that it will make you so drowsy. You had a sound sleep, all right. You sit for meditation, you feel so drowsy, so drowsy. A very big enemy is overpowering you. Fight it out. Have hard breathings. If that doesn't work, and if it is not that 1 hour sitting, stand up and meditate with hard breathing. That doesn't work. Get out, walk 5 minutes or 10 minutes, observe your sensation or respiration, come and sit. Keep on fighting this enemy. Otherwise, this enemy overpowers you, you can't meditate. Another kick from within. Either this kick will make you very much drowsy, or it will make you very much agitated. You feel like doing little bit of this, feel like doing little bit of this, little bit of this, little bit of this, but no meditation. You are in 1 hour sitting adhikta, and a kick from within. You have taken whole of your body outside, and then you realize, oh, I was in adhikta, how I came here. A kick from within won't allow you to practice properly. This enemy, dangerous enemy. Another enemy, fifth enemy. Doubt, doubt. All kinds of doubt come in the mind. What is this technique? What sort of technique is this? Observe respiration, observe respiration. Even when I was not observing respiration, it was there all the time. What I gain by observing respiration? Now observing the heat, observing the perspiration, what I am doing? Have I gone crazy? What kind of meditation? And this doubt will not allow you to work. Another doubt at times. Another doubt comes about your teacher. What teacher? I was expecting a great guru from India with capital G. What kind of guru? He doesn't have matted long hair, does not have big mustache or beards, even no shaven head, and he has got no bunches of rosaries around his neck, no trademark on his forehead, no paraphernalia of a teacher, no guru. What kind of guru? He doesn't look like freak. He looks like a straight. What guru? No. And he's got no supernatural power. He can't fly in the air. He can't dig dips in the earth. He and his assistant keep on asking, how about you? They should know what, how about you? Why they ask a student? No supernatural power. Doubt, and you can't work. Third kind of doubts come. Yes, the technique is good because so many people keep coming and they get benefit. They keep coming repeatedly. Certainly it is good. Teacher is also good because so many people listen to him, so perhaps good, all right. I am not good. I am not fit for this. Doubt about one's own capability. I am not fit. This is not the time for me. And this scene is not for me. I better quit. And one feels like running away. Oh, this doubt. Any of these three doubts overpowers you and you stop meditating. These 5 nivaranas, 5 enemies, be careful. Don't allow them to overpower you, and then you will find you are progressing. You are progressing. The technique is